Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shouting into the Void, where myself and Liam is here. Myself, Connor. This other one, Liam.
Other one. Thank
We
you.
watch Doctor Who. If you're not the other one, that that's how it is on this channel. On your channel, I'm the other one. On this
I
one,
suppose
it's the other way
that's
around.
fine.
Yes.
Fine.
We watch Doctor Who. Sometimes we watch it live on Liam's channel. Other times we watch it not live and then talk about it, as we will do here. Mainly because we've seen these before and we're just rewatching them. Mainly to see if they still hold up as they did before. If we maybe have changed our minds, maybe they're better than we thought they were. Sometimes they've been worse. That's happened a couple of times, unfortunately. But that happens. We have been watching New Who from 2005 onwards. We are now in Series 5, Matt Smith's first series, with Karen Gillan as the companion. And we are on Episode 3, Victory of the Daleks. The first time, I mean, there's only 3 episodes, but the first time in Moffat's era we've seen the Daleks. And boy, does he do something drastic with them, in their very first appearance.
Yes.
So this episode sees the Doctor and Amy called to Earth by notorious good guy Winston Churchill. Big sarcasm there. And he has these new weapons that he wants to use to defeat the Nazis. They're called Ironsides, but actually they're Daleks. Oh, and they're really evil. Who'd have guessed?
What? No.
It eventually ends up that it was all a ploy to get the Doctor there to confirm that they are Daleks so they could create new Daleks, which quickly then don't really appear again in the show in any meaningful way in the future because there was a slight backlash. Liam is being beset by bugs there.
Yeah, my backlash.
It's that time of year, folks.
It is.
It's hot, it's muggy, and it's
fruit flies everywhere.
Disgusting fly season. So
it'll be dead in a few days, even if I can't kill it. So.
Yeah, that's good. We persevere. We do this for you and for ourselves. But yes, what did you think of this episode and the new big Dalek boys?
I quite liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked it about as much as I thought I would, because you talked about it in the last one. It's an episode that I thought I enjoyed and I would revisit from time to time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's good fun. And I don't mind the new Daleks. I never really did. I can see why people didn't like it. It's not like I can completely misunderstood. Like, okay, you're just hating for the sake of it now, which a lot of people do nowadays with Doctor Who. But it's a bold change, and I think we've realised now that attitude is because Doctor Who fans just hate everything. Yes. I think this is one of the big early examples of that I can think of, is just that fandom just likes to hate things, which I think is kind of the peaked here. So yeah, I actually found myself quite enjoying it. Far from the best. I did prefer it to The Beast Below. Definitely not as strong as the 11th Hour, obviously. Sadly, but yeah, it's a fun kind of nice little adventure. It's cool to see a new Doctor come in and face the Daleks for the first time. So I liked that. It kind of ties into the overarching mystery of the season as well, with the cracks and Amy not remembering the Daleks and stuff like that. I quite like an early going back in time adventure in the series, which is normally they normally do it around episode 3 anyway. So I think season 5 in particular sticks to a lot of the formulas that the previous era did have, and then they kind of break away with that with series 6. But yeah, it feels very much that kind of style. But yeah, I just had a good time with it. Flew by for me. I think pacing wise, this episode just does not slow down, for better or worse at times. I think it could have benefited from maybe being like an hour long. I think a 2-part probably would have been pushing it, but I could kind of see some cool ideas in there that I wish they could have done more with, as is often the case with Doctor Who. But regardless, I did have a fun time with it. It's always fun to see the Daleks pop up for the most part. And yeah, it was just a solid, albeit average episode, I would say. But yeah, it kind of held up my estimations, I think. If anything, I'm a bit like, ooh, some of I don't think it's the actors. I think it's maybe more the direction. It's like, wow, this feels very early noughties acting here, folks. To some of the characters, but I have seen as actors in other things where they're really, really good and they kind of, settle and stuff. Bracewell. But that actor's amazing in Fleabag. If you haven't seen Fleabag, he's incredible in that. So I think it's more like a direction thing at times, where the acting's a bit like, oh wow. Maybe it's just like the characters are a lot. That's the one thing I think that hasn't aged quite as well for me in regards to that. I was kind of cringing my way through some of that. But outside of that, it's a good laugh. I had a fun time with it.
Yep, I think that's fair. I think, for me, it was an enjoyable episode, a good Dalek episode. So we always want to see new things happen with the Daleks. I have some issues around the newer Daleks, but like none, they're fixable things, sort of thing. It's not. We'll come on to that. And a couple of sort of plot points that sort of, if the episode was a bit longer, maybe they could have spent a little bit more time exploring, but they didn't. But there's overall a fair bit that I did like, and I definitely preferred it to last week's. There finally feels like there's a threat this week, which was missing from last week, which is good. And we get to see, again, quite a few sides to Matt Smith's Doctor in this, which is great. As always, with this show, we tend to do 3 positives and 3 negatives, because that's just how we've stuck into this. So never mind. I'll let you go first this time. What is your first positive?
My first positive is the Daleks.
Dalek
boys.
Pretty
much. Pretty much. Yeah. I think I have some issues with, I guess, in regards to how they're used in a way, in terms of like plot sides of things, and staging sides of things, but we can get onto that. But the actual Daleks themselves, I thought, were quite well characterized in this one. I love the Ironsides. I think the design of them is so cool. I remember buying all the merch for them when they were coming out. So, it's a nice little unique spin. Green's my favorite color, so to have a green Dalek is very cool as well. But I just liked that they kind of, give them a bit of a revamp in a way to like fit the time that they're in. So I thought that was really cool. And then I like the kind of build up to the new paradigm. Make of them what you will, obviously. Personally, I really like the designs. I think it's just a color choice that lets them down. I think they just needed to reel it in, which they do, I think, fix by making them a bit more metallic-y in the sound of the Daleks, particularly like the red and blue ones. But I don't know what they were thinking with yellow and orange, to be honest. But I generally think the Supreme, just as he is, looks so cool. So yeah, I like the look of them. I like that they had like a plan A, and they had a plan B, and they had a plan C. And when it's called Victory of the Daleks, you kind of have to assume that they would be able to do some of that. I think at times their plot is a bit stupid in what they were kind of carrying out, but they did win. So, I guess they lived up to the title of the episode. And when do the Daleks often win? I guess. But I liked that this episode did kind of tackle that a bit, in the fact that, we've seen them a lot. They've been defeated a lot. They're kind of, bottom of the barrel, truly. This time is the last couple of Daleks for sure, this time. But of course, when the ship survived the last event, they killed them.
They're never going to come back.
No, never going to come back. So yeah, that's a thing that happened, which is, but I like that they kind of addressed that head on, and it's like, okay, we need this kind of revamp. We need to get the pure Daleks involved, and give them a spark of hope that they're going to kind of win the day and revamp their armies and stuff. So I like that, the bad guys sort of won this time, and the Daleks, I think, should have a victory that sticks every now and again, which couldn't always be said of their previous appearances. So I like that they kind of went back to that with this. And yeah, I just like the reveal of them. I like the idea of them being in this World War II setting. I like the kind of mystery, like the first quarter of the episode. Like, I mean, we know they're going to be evil, but I like the kind of back and forth with that. I think that's a really intriguing idea that I wish they could have done a bit more with, but we'll get on to that. But yeah, I think they did some cool stuff with them. I like that, bringing them back this early in the new era, and so soon after we kind of last saw them as well, really, with the end of series 4. I like that they did something very vastly different with them. And, even if it wasn't well received by some, they then went on to still listen to the fans and just change it. And they didn't say, well, actually, I'm just going to stick with it anyway, which they easily could have done, but didn't. So I like this as like a first stepping stone to try to do something a bit new and different with the Daleks and actually give them a win. I think it's probably something that should happen a bit more often. So I like that they did that.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm pretty much agree with all of those points. My sort of specific one around the Daleks is just them being in World War II, and specifically the Ironsides. I love the sort of matte green they are, the little things they got on their little lights, so they don't give away where they are.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's so much there you could do, like an alternate universe where the Daleks were in World War II and maybe on either side, and you could do a whole Dalek Civil War type story in there. I think that's such a unique concept and such a cool idea that naturally it just looks great. And when they're on the side of the good guys, it throws into the mix of, oh, is this different kind of Daleks? Is it, it's the whole thing in Peter Capaldi's episode where it's like, are these Daleks good? Matt Smith straight away is like, no, they're bad. They're always bad. I will not entertain the idea they are good. But you still see how they are used in sort of like a kind of like a domestic robot type of way, where they're used for filing, for getting tea, for helping with equipment, and for effectively just being a weapon. And I really like that. If Van Statten could see that, he would be pleased.
Yes, he would.
But fortunately, it's quite a way in his future yet, and he doesn't see it because it tries to kill them. So
true.
Whoopsie. But yeah, I do like how they used. I do like their plan to sort of trick the Doctor. It's a very sort of clever plan that they've put in place using the resources they have, which is a unique thing that we sort of haven't seen before. And yeah, it's more than just the Daleks wanting to, we're going to destroy everyone. It's more of a thoughtful, cunning plan, which I don't think we've had probably since maybe Dalek, where it's been like, I'm going to sort of routinely get through this base just so I can escape before the fleet.
I like that it's not like a big global planet-wide invasion story.
Yes, I mean, it kind of descends into, we're going to blow up the planet, but that's not the whole.
But they're not invading it.
They're
like,
no,
let's just destroy it.
Just a threat. Yeah,
they're going to use it for this or do that, which obviously their last couple of appearances kind of were. So.
Yes, yeah, which I do appreciate, seeing a more tactile side to the Daleks rather than just a death because death, which is great. So what is your second positive?
My second is the spectacle I've gone for.
Interesting.
Which does kind of tie into the Daleks in the World War II setting. The fact that they're based on the Nazis and they hadn't done this already is kind of balmy. But I think that people like think of Daleks and it's like it needs to be present day or future for them, really, to make to make it seem right. But I like having them in like a historical setting. I think that's quite cool whenever they do that. So yeah, that was cool. And just, the time period is one of the most popular kind of, time periods to focus fiction on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To focus fiction on.
Yes.
One of my favourite time periods.
One of my favourite. Nothing bad ever happened during this time.
No, what a fun time they all had. So yeah, I think that's always just a kind of gold standard time period to kind of set something in. So I like that they did that. And the whole kind of space battle, they went the most Star Wars they've ever Star Wars in Doctor Who, with an obviously Doctor Who budget compared to Star Wars space battles. But they gave it a go. They tried, and again, it's something a bit different that you don't really see for Daleks and Dalek stories, and just Doctor Who in general. To get like a proper space battle like that was quite fun. Something to put in the trailers. We have like another historical figure in Winston Churchill, stuff like that, setting in the cabinet war rooms. I think a lot of war stories will be about, people the kids that have been sent away and stuff like that. And kind of after this, we kind of got a huge kind of array of Churchill-based films, like Darkest Hour and stuff, and all sorts. And The Crown, we had him pop up in series 1 of that and everything. So, yeah, of course, by Barney's dad. And yeah,
the creature from Footloose.
Sure, I've seen Footloose, definitely. I know that reference. But yes, I liked seeing that kind of before it was like a thing that we kind of did quite a bit. So even though it's kind of an intimate setting really with the cabinet war rooms and it's all very enclosed and stuff, I do like that it feels quite big scale wise because obviously the Daleks are there. is this historical setting, but we have like Dalek technology and spaceships and robot Bracewells, and all of that kind of getting involved in it as well. I just think the kind of spectacle that they go for, particularly this early on in the series as well. Normally it'd be like a run-of-the-mill, like Unquiet Dead or something, back in time, Ghosts. I think this is a very sci-fi historical, which we don't often get as much. I think they blend it really well. So I like the spectacle of that. I thought that was a fun thing about this episode.
Yeah, fair enough. It's hard to sort of disagree with that. I think it does deliver on a lot of sort of action set pieces. And again, sort of intense moments as well. And it really does it doesn't feel like an episode 3. It feels like it should be maybe later in the season. And, you know, maybe at one point it was going to be later in the season, but they decided to move it. Who knows? But yeah, it is definitely a big episode for a standard episode. My sort of second positive is the Bracewell twist.
Yes.
That he is an android rather than a Scottish boy doing his best.
Paisley boy.
Yes, I just, because you don't see it coming. I mean, you know that what's going on. You know, he didn't create the Daleks. Okay, so what is the situation here? But you don't really think, yes, he'll be a fake.
He's Davros.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Because that's just not the kind of thing that you kind of think the Daleks will do. Because again, that takes a lot more strategy and planning and resource that we haven't sort of seen the Daleks do in the first sort of 4 series we've had. They've been very much like a guns blazing, shoot first, think later kind of thing, whereas this one clearly required a lot of planning. Sometimes maybe they've sort of overstepped and shot themselves in the foot with the fact that they've planned that much, which we'll come on to. But I think sort of the twist that he was innocent, but a part of the issue, and then also a bomb, I think is a good sort of use of a character that could just have been nothing. It gives him a lot of emotional backstory as well, because where did they get the memories from? Was that real? Was he a real person that they took? Was he just a made up complete creation? I think it's kind of left in ambiguous enough that you can read into that however you want. And I sort of like that, how that character ends and sort of is left to sort of roam the world. Will he die? Will he age like a normal person? Who knows? He could still be alive now. He's in the 60th, folks, confirmed.
Yeah. He comes back to Churchill because he's in the Pandora Core Opens. But
he is, yes. So
hopefully with Laura Bella, she moved to London and was killed.
Yes, if she was real.
Yeah, she was real.
But yeah, I do like that. I like the sort of just the reveal. If maybe the CGI when they shoot his hands a little bit dodgy, but fine, whatever. I did like it, and I thought it was quite a nice thing that maybe gets taken a little bit too far later down Moffat's thing where they put the little eye stalks out their foreheads. I think that's lazier. That's a lazier Bracewell.
Yeah. But that's when they spent all the budget on the 50th. And
yes, yeah, had to think about it a bit more. Yeah. But yeah, we'll come to that then. But yeah, I did like Bracewell's reveal. I guess that is a standout for the episode. What is your final big positive?
Yes. Having this sounds horrible. Having the Doctor and Amy be split up for most of the episode. Kind of exploring them separately and stuff. I know they are a bit separate in The Beast Below, but even when Amy's kind of on her own in The Beast Below, it's basically the majority of it is her just seeing herself on the screen anyway and pressing the button, then she's back with them. But this, we got to properly see Amy interact with other people on her travels that aren't just like the Doctor and stuff. So we didn't really get much of her with like Liz 10 and the little girl and the other one. There wasn't much to that. But here, I think she has a much more tangible relationship with Churchill and stuff, and them kind of bouncing off each other, which was cool to see. And see her take the initiative and actually have the idea to use Bracewell and his ideas and stuff, and then to make him horny at the end to save the day. Which
turn him on to turn him off.
Exactly that. I'm sure they laughed in the writer's room when they had that idea. There you go. So that was cool. And then just to see the Doctor on his own, no other like humanoid characters to bounce off with, like he's still having the Beast Below and stuff. So it's just him versus the Daleks. And I like that he kind of held his own against this brand new race of people. And just it's always a very personal thing for the Doctor when the Daleks show up. And I think they definitely get that across. And then there's the added mystery of like, why does Amy not remember these people? So he was kind of confused about that. But he's always going to get pretty angry and kind of ratty when the Daleks are around. So I like them kind of exploring that a bit. And then when he goes to confront him on his own, the whole bit with the jammy dodger and stuff is obviously quite famous in regards to 11 and his incarnation. You know, a lot of people will remember that. And yeah, it was cool to see that, and then see him face with a small choice on his own. You know, he had like the choice kind of taken out of his hands in the last episode. So like in this following one, Amy's not there to kind of give her 2 cents or anything. And would he even want that input? Because he's probably going to make the same choice anyway. So I like that we're still, you know, 3 episodes in, we're still doing new and things with his character, and we're learning, you know, a different thing about him kind of each time, and seeing how he's on his own, and how he's with others, how he's with old friends, how he's with new friends. So I like that they continue to do that and just give them both as characters time to shine away from each other. So that it's not just like their relationship is kind of all it's about thus far. They actually do kind of grow into their own a bit. And I think that's a big positive of having a TARDIS team of only 2, is that they can afford to do that. So when there's like, you know, the fam and stuff, as much as we love the fam, there are a lot of them, and even pairing them off, you know, there still just wasn't time to explore any individuals. They had to do it kind of across multiple episodes to kind of give them all the screen time. But here they can manage it in a nice succinct way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And my sort of final positive is similar to that, as Amy sort of shows why she is a companion in this. She comes up with the sort of she saves it twice, once with the Spitfire sort of plan, trying to get them up there, and again with sorting out Bracewell at the end and giving him sort of hope to move on and to sort of stop him exploding. You know, I think there's a good chance that it could have just ended as the Doctor leaves Amy there, he goes and does it all, then comes back. So I'm glad that they sort of give a secondary plot for Amy to solve, so she wasn't just sat around like she was in the last episode, where she sort of sat around and looked around and then went, oh, hang on a minute. I'm glad there was something more substantial there was for this one. And it sort of again shows that you know, Rose was not the best companion, because she, you know, Amy is interacting with everyone, she's not being pedantic and being like, oh yeah, I know this and he's gonna do this and that kind of thing. She's trying to get involved. She is showing a care, especially towards the lady that loses her boyfriend, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, there's that sort of caring side as well, and the ability to stand on her own against, you know, or opposite Churchill, who is probably, you know, one of the most influential people in British history, I guess. You know, and to be not phased by that says a lot about her character as well, which is great, and I'm glad that we get more of that as the series goes on, even with the addition of her boyfriend / husband in a couple of episodes time, which is great. Have you got any other positives you want to touch on before we move on?
Do I have any extra ones? You know what, I will give some, like, a particular shout out to the space battle. So I just think it's something very unique for Doctor Who to do something quite as sci-fi as that, I think, especially because the main ship we're used to seeing is the TARDIS, and it doesn't really do that. So yeah, it's something a bit different. It's something for the kids to go ooh and ah at, and I'm sure they had fun recreating that in the playground, you know, the week after this episode aired. So I thought that was a fun little sequence as well. You know, nothing spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, and it's been done much better in other things with bigger budgets. But you know, I thought it was a bit of fun Saturday night balminess.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I just want to give a shout out to Matt Smith, who was obviously great in this as well. Again, showed his range, especially with his sort of anger at the Daleks and frustration at letting them go again, and then very quickly turning personal and sort of light-hearted to try and sort of sort out Bracewell, which was really helpful and really good, and he's great. And also the actor that plays Churchill, I think, really characterizes him very well.
He's very good,
and it is a very good performance. Again, from one of the most influential people in British history. That's probably not an easy role to prepare for and perform. And I think he does a great job at it, and obviously has continued to do so because he appears twice again and he has his own big finish. So
yeah,
you know, you really got the bank in that one, didn't he?
He's doing good stuff. Yeah,
job for life, literally.
Yes.
now we move on to the negatives, because obviously there are always negatives with Doctor Who, as always, because no episode is perfect except Boomtown, and even then I did not give it a perfect 10. So
You did not, no.
there we go. What is your first negative?
Turning on to turning off, I guess, is our way of putting it. The whole Bracewell diffusing him by making him horny. I mean, it's weird. I don't know if it just, there's a place for that kind of resolution, I think, but maybe in an episode that wasn't as high stakes as this one, maybe. You know, I know they kind of needed a quick solution. I know it ties into Amy kind of has a bit of a crush on the Doctor at this point, and you know, she's very much drawing from that to help Bracewell out. That's where that's kind of coming from and stuff, and they obviously explore that, and particularly the next couple of episodes before, you know, she's Team Rory at last.
Yes.
So from a character point of view, I get it, and I get why they did that with her and stuff. But you know, I feel like the Daleks just wouldn't program that kind of capacity to do that anyway. But also, I understand like they just wouldn't even consider that. So it's a complete oversight. So it could be something that is used against them. So I can see both sides of it. So, you know, I think it makes sense, but also doesn't make sense to me at exactly the same time. It's Schrodinger's making sense. But personally, I fall on the side that it's a bit weird and uncomfortable and stuff. Especially because, you know, it's like, it's not his memories though. It's someone else's. Like, it's probably the real Bracewell that they maybe murdered and put his skin on a robot. I don't know. So yeah, I think it makes sense, like how it works, I guess, even though he is a robot, but you know, but yeah, it just, it's a bit weird to me as a solution goes. You know, how do we stop the Daleks? Oh, we're going to turn a robot on. Oh right, okay. Seems a bit weird. I can see the sense in it, and I wouldn't say like it's completely barbaric, and like I can't see where this even came from. But to me, it's a bit like, ugh.
Yeah, it's big. Craig turning into a Cyberman because he loves his son vibes.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, love wins. It's like that was the theme, was it?
Yeah.
Were we thinking
just think of your friends and the enemy will go away?
Yeah, basically. And you know, I get it that they needed a quick solution, or the writers needed a quick solution. But it's another situation where Amy is taking a big punt and hoping it pulls off. You know, because if she's her last few minutes are trying to make this robot man horny and maybe explode, that would be very embarrassing.
What way to go?
I know, but yeah, I think it's just a bit. Yeah, it's fine. I don't find it like so horrible and so like, you know, that I dislike it.
No.
Because I think fine, yeah, sure, he's an android. You know, he's programmed to be a real human, and therefore he will have the real human emotions, so therefore he could, you know, all that kind of stuff. But you know, with the Daleks and all these plans of failsafe they had, you know, there should have been something in that. But I guess they needed the Doctor to at least have a reason to go back and try and stop the bomb. So therefore, there's so many arguments you can make for it. One of my negatives, and it feels, it's probably a low blow. It's not my first negative, but the way the bomb looks on his body, it just looks so cheap and fake.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a real, it doesn't look like a real android. They don't, real androids aren't a thing, but it looks plastic. It looks like it's like one of those cheap Centurion like things you can get with like a little thing on it. And it just takes me out, because I'm like, it just looks a bit naff. And maybe they had to have the budget for the big Spitfire space battle and stuff, and they couldn't really have that anymore. So fine, but it just looks a bit last minute, and it always takes me out, which is unfair, because it's supposed to be this big threat, but when it looks like Centurion armor with an Iron Man arc reactor in the middle, it does take me out of it, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world, because it would have been.
Well, no, because that was episode 2 of series 1.
That's true. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, that's one of my negatives, but that wasn't my sort of top one, which I don't have too much more to say on it, but I just don't like it just feels cheap, and I think that's my main sort of problem with that. In an episode that doesn't feel cheap and has the scale.
Yeah, and it's also like the climax, if you will, of the episode as well. It's a shame.
Yeah, it's just a bit naff. So what is your sort of second negative?
Lots of new technology being introduced and brought in, and
Okay.
I don't think it's really grounded or not all necessarily explained. There's just a lot of that. The Doctor I can turn off the Dalek shields for a minute. How? Oh, never mind. Doesn't matter. He just does it, and then we've got that. I understand like the Daleks kind of having all these different things with Bracewell, and they really need to sell the idea that Bracewell is like the scientist, so Churchill brings them on board and everything, so he gives them all these schematics. Did they have to go that far with it? Probably not, because they're making things that can be used against them, which seems very dumb of them to design.
In the foot there,
it seems very dumb of them to design. So that was strange. And I assume they like Bracewell obviously like maybe started making a lot of these schematics anyway, because they got them working in about 2 minutes. So I'm guessing that's kind of fine, but still there's a lot of that going on. And I don't really mind the addition of the progenitor, but it is just another new thing being introduced to the lore and everything. And the doors close 2 seconds later, it's finished, and then they open up and all the 5 Daleks have been made and everything. I'm like, that was an empty room literally 5 seconds ago, and that's not even an exaggeration. So that seemed a bit weird. Maybe that was an editing thing and they had to cut something out, I don't know. And then the Daleks couldn't time travel back, but now they've got pure Daleks, they can just time travel technology and stuff. They threw a lot at you. And also Bracewell's a bomb, by the way, and there's a continuum thing, and we're going to explain what that is in 2 scenes time rather than explain it now. I think they kind of, I know Doctor Who's a very techno-babbly show anyway, but this is just technology itself. I think they're just throwing it all in there. And I guess that's why they don't normally mix as much sci-fi into historicals as they do with this one. As much as I like the concept, I think there was a lot of that thrown at us in here, and there just wasn't time to really explain it because it wasn't like an hour long or a 2-part or whatever. So that's kind of a shame, but I do think there's a few kind of overwhelming things like that probably needed to be explained but don't get explained.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think for the why they couldn't time travel one, I guess the ship just didn't recognize them as Daleks, therefore they needed the pure Daleks to work the ship. And then that's why they needed to trap the Doctor to get the thing, to get the new Daleks to then be able to leave. Maybe.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that those crappy Daleks and a crappy ship can make something like Bracewell and everything like that, but they can't do anything. It's what the story requires them to do and not do.
Yeah.
But
they're powerful when they need to be, and they're weak when they need to be, when the plot deserves it. My second, first sort of negative sort of goes onto that is, why are the original Daleks not recognized as proper Daleks? You can infer that it's because they're made from Davros and therefore their genes aren't Dalek genes, but at the same time, surely Davros is the purest of pure when it comes to Dalek DNA, but maybe not. And it's not.
I suppose he is a Khaled, isn't he? Not. They haven't like mutated it to make it a Dalek. I guess.
Maybe I don't know, but that's the thing is, there's no sort of explanation.
They almost should have maybe just done it like they survived series 1 and they're like the half-human ones or something.
That should have if they.
Or maybe they are.
Like that,
They just.
That's where you could have a flashback to just a Dalek ship, when everything's being rosed, that it just goes, whatever. Because it does just feel like, they're not recognized because we need them to not be recognized so we can get these new Daleks in. You could have had it just as, we need more powerful Daleks, but we need, I don't know. Well, you can't really, without having, it's all linked together, which I think is the problem. There needs to be an explanation as to why they're not recognized properly. Whether that is because they came from Davros, whether that's because they were half human, something along those lines that needed to be there. But there's just nothing there, because why would the Davros Daleks create devices that wouldn't be recognized by themselves?
Yeah.
It doesn't, unless it syncs to the current time period, in which case their DNA is different to what the Daleks are currently like in the 1940s, with whatever. But
that's even more technobabble then, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just needs a line or a flashback of something that places these Daleks, because it's all implied that they've come from the Stolen Earth destruction.
Yeah, I think that is what it's supposed to be.
But there's no answer or question even asked as to why aren't you pure. It's just, we need you to confirm that we are Daleks, because our own ship doesn't recognize us as Daleks, and therefore we can't do anything except create this man.
Yeah, they couldn't input the safety code, but they got text. So
basically, yeah.
They needed the projector.
Yeah. It's basically that, and it just needed a little one line somewhere to sort of explain why. Yeah, explain why, really. There's nothing else.
Just explain why, please.
Please, yeah. What is your final negative?
My final main one, yes. And yeah, I kind of alluded to this a bit earlier, and it's one of the. This is a shame that it's just not longer, I guess, because I like what we get out of it, but I just wish we got more of it. I do wish we could have taken a bit more time to get to the reveal that the Daleks are bad. I enjoy the Ironside portion a lot, and obviously as soon as they get revealed as when we are Daleks, blah blah blah, but not the pure ones, and then they just get killed off, and that's that. It's 12 minutes into the episode where they get that reveal. I'm like, yes, you're correct, we're the Daleks, ha ha ha. And then obviously there's still half an hour of the episode left. I'm like, I kind of wish maybe just get it to the halfway point and maybe work around that somehow. Maybe, I don't know, cut out Tony on Bracewell, and he's just a robot, and his storyline is what is my life now? My whole life's purposeless, and they can still fill in with hope at the end. I don't know any of that, but I think it's a shame that we couldn't get more of that. It would have been quite a cool cliffhanger if it was a two-parter, for example, to end on that reveal, and the Doctor's fucked up massively. See you next week. But again, I don't think there's enough here. They'd have to come up with something more to make it a two-parter and fill that. So it's just one of those things that it's just this 45-minute story is all they can have to work with, and I'm glad we didn't get yet another multiple part story with the Daleks. It's the first time in a while. So it's not necessarily, it's kind of an unfair criticism, I suppose, because I do like what they do with it, and I feel like they explore what they need to explore with it. I just wish there was more to that, or maybe a bit more doubt in there, or just remove the scene from The Beast Below at the end. It's this obviously looming shot of the Dalek, making them look very evil, or Churchill never has his doubts. I don't know. So it is what it is, but what can you do?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, there isn't enough to stretch this to a two-parter, I don't think.
No.
There would need to be something else. Maybe you could have it that these Daleks needed to get on their ship, but then when their ship comes, it gets revitalized or whatever, other Daleks come and there's a bit of a civil war on Earth. You could maybe have that, but that's again, that requires a lot more budget, if anything else. Which is the problem. My sort of final negative is why are the Daleks broadcasting their chat with the Doctor? They're like, oh, we're picking up Dalek frequencies. Why are they recording this and putting it out?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. And I know it's there obviously so that Amy and Churchill and all that know what's going on and what the current situation is or something, but don't have that. Just have the Doctor be like, oh, here's a little earpiece, I'm gonna go, you listen in, and if you hear anything let me know, or blah blah blah. That's a better way than doing, I guess you're watching it either through Dalek CCTV or through one of their eye stalks, and it's still being broadcast and can then be picked up by humans. It just doesn't make sense for all their sort of strategy and smarts. Broadcasting,
it's them shooting themselves in the foot again, isn't it?
Again, yeah. And there's no even if Bracewell could create the technology to pick up those feeds, don't broadcast it. Don't just stop. You don't need to show everyone. I know you want to show off that you're nice and new and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not. It doesn't make sense for all their sort of smarts. I guess the original Daleks were smarter than the new boys because the new boys came in and they started broadcasting everything, which sort of ruined their destruction of Earth plan. But hey, at least they could tell how Jamie Dodger was a biscuit, which I guess the other ones couldn't. But yeah, it's just there's a couple of things there where it's the Daleks didn't need to do this, and it kind of makes them look stupid and just thick because they didn't think of it, and it makes no sense. I know it's fine from a storytelling perspective because the characters still on Earth need to know what's happening, but you can do it in better ways that doesn't make the main villain look like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, because I know that their main goal was just to survive in time travel and get away, which they obviously achieve. But yeah, and they didn't, I guess, necessarily care about destroying the Earth. It was just a thing that they could do. But give it some effort, lads. Like, it was strange, especially because that's like the big threat at the end of the day. It's not like we need to fight off the Daleks and that's the final confrontation. It was like stop Bracewell from going off. So for them to, they don't really broadcast that bit when they're talking to the Doctor in the TARDIS and stuff. So picking and choosing. What are you doing? Are you just showing off? You just being petty? I don't know. So yeah, they're not smart boys yet. I think they're still in their infancy. They need to develop a bit more, which they obviously they, I guess, go off to do, or maybe they just retire after that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, they were so embarrassing. They're like, oh god.
Yeah.
Can't believe you left the.
This is why they joined the Alliance, because we're kind of a bit thick.
Yeah. No point doing it. We can't do this for ourselves. Did you have any other negatives you want to touch on before we move on?
A couple of very petty things, I think, very nitpicky things that, again, they don't take away my enjoyment. They've always kind of annoyed. Well, one of them's always kind of annoyed me, and then there's another one that just knows watching it now. Amy and Churchill watching the TARDIS take off. That scene lasts ages, and there's so many cuts to them as well. It just cuts
and the smoke is just drifting towards the TARDIS.
Yeah, like that just took way too long. I do think at that time, the TARDIS does take too long to take off, but don't do scenes like that. That was very bizarre. Like, come on, you have time for this? So that was bizarre. But again, that's something I noticed watching it this time. But the other thing that's always bugged me a bit, and again, it's not a big deal because it is what it is. But some of the staging in the Dalek ship with the new big boys, I hate that there's that big thing sticking out, and the Emperor's the Supreme's right there, and I'm like, that looks awful. It's not even centered or anything. I'm like, oh my god, that's always really aggravated me. I don't know why. It's just a bit skewed. I'm like, no, at least have him stand directly underneath it if you're going to do that. But it feels very awkward, and maybe they wanted to properly do that to show that these guys are a lot bigger and everything now. But it just looks weird, I think, and a bit, I don't know. It's strange because that block thing that's sticking out nowhere else in that room. They could just put them a little bit back so it's not in the way, or a little bit forward. So it seems very strange. And I'm like, you're gonna knock that light off. That's a brand new shiny light, and you're gonna knock that off in a minute, you peasant. So yeah, I don't know why it annoys me so much, because again, I can get over it. It doesn't, cancel the episode, cancel Mark Gatiss for writing this.
I'm sorry.
It's one of those things, but it's always kind of annoyed me staging wise, because you could have just moved them. You could just pushed them a bit further. Because I did that big sweeping shot of them, and it's supposed to be like their big grand entrance, and I'm like, but there's the thing right there. It just looks a bit clunky, I think. So.
Yeah. It's like they sorted the room for the small Daleks, and then the new ones came in and went, shit, they're bigger than we thought. Oh
god, we didn't think this through.
That's fair. A couple of nitpicks for me. Where does the big spanner come from that the Doctor hits the Dalek with?
Yeah, it's like leaning against a banister or something, isn't it?
Nobody has a spanner that big in a cabinet war room.
I guess it's Bracewell's
workshop,
room,
isn't it?
It's his workshop.
Why did
it be on the floor? Why surely
that's always
before Bracewell.
That's always been a strange thing to me, but I do like the sound of it hitting the Dalek. I think that's nice. I'm not a big fan of the Doctor, the sound effect of him punching Bracewell. I think that's pretty cartoony, where he comes in and just like uppercuts him. Fine. And then you sort of alluded to as well, the colours for the Paradigm Daleks, I think, are a bit too bright for the most evil creatures in the galaxy. The red, the blue, and the white, fine.
Yeah,
they're fine. You make them matte, you turn them down a bit, great. Orange and yellow especially.
Yeah, I think the orange could work. You just need to give it maybe a slightly darker shade. But yellow, they try to make it work, I think, because all these bumpers and stuff are like black compared to the others. They're just like standing like grey. So I think they kind of realise like, oh well, it's a bit bright. We need to like darken that up a bit. But yeah, it's a nice kind of concept. If you're going to have coloured Daleks, it would probably look weird to not have a yellow one. If you're going to have like some of the big colours, and you've already had green Ironsides, so you don't necessarily need to have a big green one.
I think that's the problem.
It's a bit like, oh god.
Yeah, they made the yellow. They wanted to do the green one. They went, oh, we've used green for Ironsides. We need another color for this. Let's go for yellow.
Yeah.
Bright
I've
yellow.
got a fun fact about it. They did try
Oh,
green.
good. Well, there you go. I mean, you could just had a full black one. I know you kind of had that with Dalek Sec, but we've had the red one recently with the Supreme Dalek, so
I've got
doesn't
a fun
really
fact about
matter.
that as well.
No, there you go. But yeah, just yellow and orange don't necessarily work. And I mean, the others can work, and they are a good design. I like the sort of new eye stalk design as well.
Yeah, as designs go, I have no problems with it whatsoever. It's just the colors.
Just those specifically those two colors, because you can do other things with the other ones that make it look a bit better.
I think like as toys and stuff, in merchandise, I think they look really great. But
yeah,
on screen, like the orange and yellow ones in particular, like no, I can see why people you can see why people take the piss and call them the Power Ranger Daleks.
Yeah, exactly. Bro, that's it for my negatives and your negatives, I suppose.
Indeed.
Now, before we rank the episode, what are your fun facts?
Fun facts. Right. So, 2 working titles for this episode included the Dalek Project, which is and the Dalek Tea Party.
Ah, that would have been great.
Can you imagine? It's just the "Would you care for some tea" clip just for 40 minutes.
Yeah,
that's all that is.
Amazing.
Yes. The Paradigm Daleks in this episode are given individual titles corresponding to the color of its armor. We have the red drone, the orange scientist, the blue strategist, the yellow eternal, and white supreme. The red, blue, and yellow Daleks were revealed on variant covers of the Radio Times, symbolizing the 3 leading British political parties at the time: Labour, Conservative, and Liberal Democrats. The orange and white Daleks left to be revealed in the episode as it aired.
Politics in my Doctor Who Radio Times cover.
I know, right? My Doctor Who's not political, even though they literally used the Daleks to symbolize the political parties in 2010. But no, definitely not a political show at all.
God.
The Yellow Eternals kind of role as like, what on earth do they do? What is an Eternal? Was supposed to be revealed at a later date, but obviously due to the backlash from the Daleks, they never ended up exploring what that was. Initially, the new Daleks were supposed to replace the Time War era Dalek design and hoped to pay tribute to the various color variants of Daleks every story that they appeared in the classic series, because they were always changing color. But due to the polarizing reception to them, it was decided to merge them together and have the new models serve as officer classes. This concept was introduced in 2012 with the Asylum of the Daleks, and they get like the metallic repaint and stuff and look much better. This is the first Dalek story since 2005's Dalek to A, not feature David Tennant as the Doctor, and B, not be a 2-parter. It's also the first Dalek story since 1984 to not show the Daleks levitating. So there you go.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't make it up. Much like in Series 1, this is the 3rd episode of the series, a pseudo-historical written by Mark Gatiss, and both preceded and followed by 2 episodes written by the head writer. So the era starts in similar ways. Who'd have thought it?
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Exactly that. The 2005 Daleks were designed so the eye stalk was the same level as Billy Piper's. The Daleks made for this story were redesigned to match Karen Gillan's height. Yes, Billy Piper's eye stalk.
That's why the Daleks are very tall then.
That's why they're tall.
She is a tall lady.
She is very tall. The original design of the Paradigm Daleks featured blades on various parts of their casing, but timing and budget issues meant that this was scrapped, and I think that's probably for the best. I can't imagine. I don't know how that would have worked.
So many industrial accidents that would have happened on set.
Yes.
Falling into it. Oh shit.
Indeed. The Paradigm Dalek's infamous hunchback, so the big ass bit at the back that people hated, was intended to store different weapons that would swap out with the gun and sucker arms in later appearances, but this was never explored due to the fan reaction. Sadly,
I bet they're in comics or
probably.
You know,
it's like the sucker arm just doesn't exist with the Daleks nowadays, and you know they do swap them out and stuff. I think it would have been the idea, but never mind. For filming purposes, the Cabinet War Room set is considerably bigger than its real-life counterpart, and also featured an RAF spotter table that wouldn't have been there in real life. I do love.
Don't look like.
Yeah, that should have been like an additional minor positive for me. I love the shot just before the credits where they push the Dalek figure forward. I think it's really nice shot.
I mean, there is a bit in there where they keep moving the planes, and I'm pretty sure they've got absolutely no idea what they're doing. They're just pushing them along the board, like,
but they're just playing.
Yeah, basically.
Here comes the plane. This episode holds the record for the most Dalek props used in a single story without the use of CGI, toys, cutouts, or other illusions, with 8 Daleks being on set at the same time. That's obviously the Paradigm Boys and the 3 shit boys. While Terry Nation based the Daleks on the Nazis, this is the first time that they've been used in a World War II setting, ironically fighting against the Nazis. Funny. The Daleks saying, "I am your soldier," is a reference to The Power of the Daleks, Patrick Troughton's first story as the Doctor, where a Dalek states, "I am your servant." Mark Gatiss asked Dalek voice actor Nicholas Briggs to purposefully stall the S in soldier to trick fans in the know that the iconic line was about to be repeated. So that's fun. I haven't seen that, so it wouldn't have worked on me, but that's fine. When Amy fails to remember the Daleks, the same musical sting plays when cracks in time appear in the show, a subtle hint that they are connected. So quite like that. The Orange Scientist Dalek is the only one of the new paradigm that is never seen again after this story.
Oh,
F in the chat for the Orange Scientist. But if any colour's going to be gone, I'm glad it's one of the two that we didn't like. Yeah. Near the end of the episode, Amy asks the Doctor, "So you have enemies then?" This is the first part of a famous quote by Winston Churchill. "So you have enemies then? Good. That means that you've stood up for something once in your life."
Yeah.
Churchill. When Mark Gatiss wrote the first draft of the episode, Matt Smith had not yet been cast as the Doctor, so he wrote a much more generic Doctor, though Moffat commented and Gatiss later agreed that it came across very much like John Pertwee's incarnation. Once Matt Smith had been cast, Gatiss watched everything with Matt Smith in that he could find and made changes to the Doctor's dialogue to match Smith's delivery and intonations. So, well done. Getting ahead of the game with that script.
Writing,
I mean,
yeah.
He probably knew fairly early on he was going to be writing a script because obviously him and Moffat are very close friends. A scene was cut explaining how the Doctor and Churchill had known each other for so long. I guess you can just take it as a given. He's lived a long life. Gatiss originally wanted a green Dalek in the new paradigm, but decided when testing that green just didn't seem to work somehow. I say.
Oh yeah, because they all did.
Yeah, well.
Fool.
A black Dalek design was also rejected, probably for like Dalek Sec-based reasons, because it would be big boy Dalek Sec.
Fair, to be fair.
The original ending of the episode had the Doctor and Amy watching Bracewell enter the post office, in which he'd reminisced about, and a crack in time would have been revealed on a nearby cottage next to where the TARDIS had landed, but this didn't make it past these draft stages. I guess you don't want to just repeat that pattern yet again. This is the only episode where the writer has also had a featured part in the story, as Gatiss voices the main pilot fighting the Daleks in space. So that's fun. Stephen Moffat was inspired to make this story after visiting the Cabinet War Rooms with his kids. For added variety and to make the Doctor feel old and well-lived, he decided that the Doctor and Churchill should already have been long-established friends. Mark Gatiss later said of the Dalek redesign, and I quote, "When I saw the designs, I loved them in every respect apart from the hump. I said, I think the hump is dodgy, because whatever has happened to the Daleks over the years, the fundamental pepper pot design has not been altered. It works, it's a design classic. What we've got now is, I think it's pushed just a little too far. They look fat. From the side, it looks as if they're slouching. Maybe if the head were bigger, to be more in scale. I think it's sad that the Daleks' new look has been the disproportionate focus of ire, because I loved everything else about them. If it weren't for that hump, they'd be exactly what I wanted." Sorry, Mark.
Sounds like he's got the hump.
You got the toys. You got toys of them. It's fine. And then finally, the line where Amy tells Bracewell that he's done well for a Paisley boy is an in-joke from Gatiss regarding Stephen Moffat, who is from Paisley.
There you
Down. I'm sure.
Oh, lovely. Excellent fun facts, as always. Always is a good to get insight into how the show runs and why certain things don't happen.
Yes.
But after all that, out of 10, what are you going to rate this episode?
A solid 7 from me, I think. Not too bad, nothing spectacular, but I had a surprisingly fun time with it. You know, it's very much what I could just happily put on at any time, and you know, because it's so quickly paced, I think it's just a very easy watch. So I had fun with it.
Fair enough. Mine's a 6.5, which is you know, a solid extra point than last week. So I think we've both given extra points, one extra point further on, which you know I think lines up. Yeah, I pretty much agree. Just you know, we don't have set scales, so that's why that's why there's a it's all relative, it's all personal, and that's why we do it. That is it for this week, and I have completely forgotten what next week's episode is called.
The Time of Angels, of course.
That's it. And then what's the second one?
Flesh and Stone.
That's it. Up next, two-parter, Weeping Angels. Boy, oh boy, more spooks coming, and Jorah.
I knew you were going to say that. Not River Song. Jorah.
Yeah, Jorah, and River Song, but Jorah, best boy Jorah is finally is finally in the show.
As soon as I saw the next time show, I was like, oh yeah, Jorah isn't. I know
Yeah.
Connor's going to mention this.
Best boy Jorah. He deserved so much better in Game of Thrones. He's my king of Westeros.
Well, at
Jorah.
least he doesn't die in Doctor Who.
Nope, he doesn't die next week at least.
Enjoy his next 2 weeks while you still can.
Yes. So what do you remember of time of the Angels or time of Angels?
The Time of Angels.
That's time of. Right. What do you think of it?
I really like the story from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting to have the Weeping Angels back for the first time since Blink.
Mm-hmm.
And have like a 2-parter with them as well. See if they do anything new with them. They do. See if they can still be scary. I find them scarier in this than in Blink. It's my unpopular opinion. I think they're actually better in this than in Blink, which I know a lot of people would disagree with, but I don't give a shit.
But it's better, scarier.
It is for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I mean, I would agree that they are used to a more interesting degree, and they are a better villain for it in this. But I wouldn't say it's scarier for me, at least.
That's fair enough. It's just like being in a dark cave with them. I'd rather be in a house with them than I think a dark cave where you can't really see. But still, yes, I am very excited to see them again and kind of revisit that side of things. To see, I think that the proper kickstarting of River Song story in this era as well. So she's going to be a big deal over the next couple of years worth of kind of shouting into the voids. So yes, that'll be fun as well. Jorah, obviously, how could we forget? And who could forget Bob? He gets his poor voice box ripped out.
Poor Bob.
Oh dear. And Amy's gone out on limbs and saved the day at the last minute, the last couple of weeks, and she needs to have a really shit time now. So they give her a pretty shit time. So I'm excited to see that play out. The only bit I'm dreading is the end of Flesh and Stone, which I can't stand that scene with the Doctor and Amy. So that's the only bit I don't really like. Because I know that's the one thing when I'm like going into this story, I'm like, I love this, but I know where this is going, and it's a bit better now because obviously we know how it all ends up and everything works out fine. But I still can't stand that. But that's a problem for Flesh and Stone, not for Time of Angels. So I am very excited to kind of revisit this one. I think in general it's a well-regarded one. Going into it knowing that it's the first one that Matt Smith and Karen Gillan filmed as well. It'll be interesting to see if that kind of shows. And yeah, get some scary angel times. It's been a while since we got to talk about them. Since Village of the Angels. So yeah, I'm excited to revisit them and see if the 2-part holds up as well, at least part 1 of it to now holds up as well as I remember it being. And no Graham Norton speaking over the end of it this time, so that'd be nice as well.
That's true, yeah. Yay! It's a win for everyone, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I am intrigued. It's been a while since I've seen this one, but I do remember enjoying it, and I remember a fair bit about the 2-parters. Again, it'll be interesting to see if we feel it needs to be a 2-parter, because sometimes we'll have these double bills and it'll be like, you could have done that in an hour or something. So seeing if what the padding is, I think will be interesting for this week. But that's obviously all to come. And having Riversong back for the first time, outside of the end of her life, will be interesting. Obviously we know where their story ends up, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the hints are around that, and sort of what giveaway there are, and sort of what we can infer, and what's like, that's what she's on about, that kind of thing. Should be interesting.
Because she mentions the events of this in Samson Library as well, doesn't she?
Yes, the Crash of the Byzantium.
I like that Moffat clearly had a plan to maybe explore that in particular.
Either that, or he just put it in there and went, maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Which
maybe Big Finish will do it.
Happens. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, they definitely would have if Moffat didn't.
It's true.
So but yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I've always been lukewarm on Riversong as a character, sort of post the series 4 2-parter. So we'll see if my thoughts are sort of changed. Because again, I think it's another character where there just doesn't seem to be any consequences for what she does. And sometimes I think that's to the detriment. At least with the Doctor, he dies, regenerates. There's consequences for his actions, but River seems to get away with a lot of it, especially considering most of her run in Moffat's era, she's in prison, but just goes out. Even in this episode, she is in prison, but is out to do stuff. So we'll see how it goes. That's obviously going to be a long burn because she makes a number of appearances. Obviously, she's in 4 episodes this series. this two-parter and the series finale. So she obviously is a central recurring character, but we will see. We'll see how it goes, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That will be next weekend, hopefully, and we'll obviously be back with other videos, around there. Who knows what could happen between now and then in the Doctor Who universe? Anything.
It's true.
Really. Who knows? But yeah, that'll do it for this week, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.